Hello, camera. Okay, so after graduating from George Mason University, Cami was working in DC when her team at the nonprofit she was working for bought their first domain, charity, in 1994. I remember I was working at a corporation and we were just thinking about buying our domain at the same time. So I really related to that. This sparked her lifelong interest in online communications. At the crossroads of her early adoption of the web, her marriage to a statistician, did I get that right? Yeah. Right. And her love for PR and writing, she's known today as a national leader in social media strategy and measurement. When her husband's job took her after starting a family, she had time to read and write. Finally, she began reading a lot of business blogs about marketing, PR, social media, launched her own blog in 2005. Is that right? As the first blogger in San Antonio, that was kind of funny, her ideas started to get picked up. She led the first online-only campaign for SeaWorld's launch of the Journey to Atlantis roller coaster. So a completely online campaign, and the measurement from a revenue standpoint alone was very significant. So that was really, really cool to hear about. She built an ambassador program for SeaWorld that in 2009 that today has 25 bloggers around Texas. Tracy's here representing that group. Cami has been recognized and published and has contributed chapters in a number of different books, including The New Rules of Marketing and PR, Now Is Gone, and Professional Blogging for Dummies. So we really are lucky and very fortunate to have her here today. She's in the process of publishing her first book, Digital PR, coming out next year, and an online training center for social media. She didn't come alone. Has Tracy Shannon here, who's one of the SeaWorld ambassadors. So I'll let them take it from here. But thank you very much for being here, and thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good morning. Hopefully you guys are in a creative space after our first keynote. He was great. It made me creative. I thought the best thing for me to do was to clear my mind before I came in here to talk to you. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I mean, I had kind of been slated to come here and talk to you alone, but I really thought that the way to make this real is actually to have Tracy come. And Tracy lives here in Austin. I'm very fortunate that she had the time to come today. Yeah. So Tracy, she really is a very interesting person. Like me, she started on the East Coast. She was in New York, actually as a professional actress. She was acting on Broadway and around Broadway. And she was in New York acting, and she met her husband there, and they got married. And then, could you tell me, like, what happened after that? What happened after that? This is very upworthy.
Well, actually, we met in Texas and ended up back in New York. But we were kind of living the gypsy artist life. I was acting. He was a photographer. And 9/11 happened. And my husband decided that he wanted to join the Air National Guard. So we moved back to Texas where my family was. And I went from being a person pursuing acting since as long as I can remember to a stay-at-home mom and military wife. And so there was a big delta between my expectations. And so I started blogging because I needed to create a community from inside the home where I was all day with my two children and hearing Dora, and that's Shakespeare. So I started writing, and that's how I got to a star in my own universe. I might not be a star in Hollywood, but I'm a star in my own universe.
So I've been working with Tracy now for a couple of years, and really bloggers like her all over the state and also around the country. So we don't just do the SeaWorld San Antonio Ambassador Program, although it's probably our biggest one. But today what we really want to share you is sort of this, we thought we'd take the format of he said, she said, and do, like, you know, the brand, like, point of view versus the ambassador point of view. So you guys can get an idea of, like, how you're going to approach this. How many of you already have ambassador programs or are working with bloggers on a regular basis? Just one, two, that's it? Just the, okay, great. And the rest of you are here, I'm presuming, because you'd like to? Yes? No? Could you just, like, yell? I know I'm making you talk right away because we're a small group, so let's make it a small group feeling. Can you kind of tell me, like, what you're looking for in this session? Like, what are you trying to learn? or why you here? Just the other sessions weren't.
No, for us, I run an agency and we blog twice a week. And I'm so interested in getting other people to guest blog and to come in and share their ideas and to create. Of course, most of the content is from us and our authors who are experts in marketing in their particular fields, but I just love to have it expand beyond our team to be other people who are experts in the particular area that we work, which is marketing to engineers and scientists.
Interesting. Anybody else can tell me why they're here?
Well, this is my fourth. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Was it me?
I don't know. You can go. It's fine.
No, go. Yeah, okay. Yes, sir. Fourth day on the job, but I will be working for I am working for an oil and gas parts manufacturer, and so there are a lot of people that are on the floor. There's apparently an intranet that already exists, but was internally made, and nobody goes to it. So I'm interested in both the digital and person-to-person influence on influencers, because there is always going to be that one person on the floor or that one person in the administration that is going to influence from the top down. And so I'm very interested in seeing how I can apply that to the intranet possibly, and then personally.
That's interesting to know. And you were going to say?
Well, yeah, we have a couple of challenges. I work for Texas Medical Association, so our membership is completely divergent. You have the over 40, well, I would say over 50 physicians who are not paying attention to any of this. Some of them are really involved and engaged, and we can get them interacting, but most of the time they're not interested. And then there are the under 40 guys who are like, where is all of the blogging and the interaction and the stuff that we're supposed to be, you guys are supposed to be reaching out to us, what's happening? So, and so in the midst of that, we have some solutions that we've implemented that I think are good, we're at least thinking about it, but we really need help, I think, figuring out how to better engage those older docs, and also how to give the younger guys what they're looking for.
Cool. Anybody else?
Oh no, I was actually just smiling when she said that, because it does feel very generational.
Yeah, yeah.
Trust me, Gen Xers feel so caught in the middle.
We're like, yeah.
I'm Generation X, so I'm with you.
Not to go to diverging thought patterns.
Right.
So how many of you do internal comms mostly in this room? Yeah. And who are doing like sort of external comms to like external audiences? Okay, so you're about half it. We're about half and half. That's good. All right, we're going to talk because we kind of have an external relationship. I was a brand that came to her and wanted her to talk about our brand. But for what I call SMEs or subject matter experts, which I heard kind of in here a little bit, it's similar, because you have to motivate the influencer to talk for you. And they're not people that necessarily, that's not their job to talk for you. Certainly not engineers, which my husband is. He tells me all the time, I don't have time for the social media nonsense, But he's, yeah. So we already talked about Tracy, but this is her blog. And, part of what you need to do is, first of all, find these influencers, and we are going to kind of liken this to a relationship. Okay. So like, we're going to break it down into 3 parts. We're going to talk about how you start the relationship, what you do once you get that relationship started, and when do you make that commitment, and how does that commitment happen? So starting with starting the relationship, I'm going to let Tracy tell you, it's a little bit like meeting somebody for the first time here. You don't just walk up to somebody at a conference and start asking them to do stuff for you. Correct? I mean, people would think you were crazy, and they'd actually duck and hide. They'd be like, oh, that girl is coming again. I'm like, I think I have to go to the bathroom, So you have to really think about it like that. So could you talk a little bit about that? You get this all the time.
Take a moment to get to know me. Don't send out a blanket email. Dear, a star in my own universe. I have gotten that email. When you look at it, hi, I'm Tracy. Read my blog. If you want me to be able to represent you, you need to know that I can represent you, that I'm someone that can be passionate on your behalf. So take a moment to get to know me, just as you say, like you would chat next to someone before you gave them your card, right? They might not have any value to you, or vice versa. If know that. So, look at it. What do I stand for? Do you like the way I write? I write like I speak, basically. I have a very conversational tone on my blog. That may fit you beautifully, or you may be someone who really is looking for someone who writes more formally, who does the appropriate APA, whatever, So take the time to get to know me, and then from that place, approach me. And then I will be able to respond to you knowing that you're serious about working with me and want me, not just anybody who will put your name online so that you go up on Google because you're on a few more pages.
Right. And talking about people that are subject matter experts as well, those people need to know that their particular expertise is valued. Do you know what I'm saying? So whenever you're that particular influencer, they're not going to write for you or get on a video for you or whatever it is you want to do. If they don't feel like, if they feel like you're just trying to fill space, and I don't have time for that, that'll be their thing. So we're going to talk a little bit too in a minute about how you create value for them, because that's really part of what working with influencers is all about. You have to create value for them, which is way different than working with the media. How many people here work with the media on a regular basis? Okay, so those of you who work with the media, we have always been like, we have to hone our pitches and make sure our pitches are, they have a hook in them that would be good for the readership of that publication. That sort of works for bloggers, but not really, because bloggers, you also have to hook them personally because they're passion writers. A lot of these people that are writing out there are passion writers, whether it be about business, or they're writing about their families, or whatever it is they're writing about. There's a niche, right? Sports, business, whatever it is. They're passionate about what they're writing about.
My blog is a reflection of me. So I'm only going to speak about products or organizations that I feel like are important to me in my life. I'm not going to simply, put anything up there, because that is who I am in the world, my blog. And most bloggers come from that place, that page is, it's like if I had my own talk show. That is it. So I only want to be with those organizations that I'm passionate about. And so that's why you do need to come to us and seek out our passion, not just exposure, because that's not what I'm looking to partner with.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
and kind of she's got allergies saying she's going to cry at the appropriate moment when we talk about jilted lovers, that kind of thing. So, but the truth is that, and I think I want to just kind of hone in on what she just said there. A lot of times people will go to a blogger and say, yeah, we're going to give you great exposure. We're going to give you exposure on our website, or you were talking about getting people to write for you. Mm-hmm. It's like, why would I write for your company versus my company? And that's a question. And people have solved this problem. Okay, so Shelley Kramer is a really good example of that. V3 Communications. She has a lot of guest bloggers on her company page, and it's because she's built something that people want to be a part of. So that people want to be a part of it, not for the exposure, but because they want to be a part of it. They need those links, and they have their own agendas and coming there. So your agenda is not so important necessarily to them. The next thing that really you need to do is, how are you going to, and I get this all the time. So everybody says, I want to do ambassador program. I want to do this. How do I find the right bloggers? How do I find the right, social media people, the people that are great on Twitter, or the people who are on Instagram or Vimeo video people? How do I find those people? And for media relations perspective, we always would just go, get a list, or look at the local paper and kind of figure it out. So one of the things I say whenever we talk about finding influencers is you need to set your goals. So before you know who, you need to know what you're trying to accomplish. And I know that every single session has said this to you, I think, is that we have to have a strategy before we just go out and start doing things. And I have 4 here that I think are kind of the ones that most people are looking for when they're dealing with influencers. One is to grow your own audience, which is the little leaf up in the corner. You want to grow to kind of nurture what's going on with your audience online, or your community online. Another one is to drive truly hard leads, cash conversions, sales, those kinds of things. And that's harder in the communication discipline, but it can be done. And there are people talking about that in other rooms, so you probably would have been there if you really wanted that. But there it is. And then true love, I put on there, is like really about building loyalty, brand loyalty. Or organizational loyalty to your organization or your brand. And then the 4th thing really is about growing a niche. So I have a little home there. So say you're really great on Twitter for your company, but your blog could use some work. Who are you going to partner with to make that blog better? You're going to want to find people to do that. And one of the funny things that happened to me this week, and I'm just going to share this, and Tracy and I said we have to share this, is I was at my daughter when we go to swimming lessons on Saturday. They give them each a Dum Dum lollipop at the end, and this was actually a picture I took of that chest that has the Dum Dum lollipops in it. And when you open up the paper on the Dum Dum lollipop, it has like their Twitter channel, their Facebook page. So she opened it up and flattened it out, and she said, "Mommy, they have Twitter and Facebook on here." She goes, "Why do they do that?" I said, "Because they want you to follow them on Twitter or Facebook. They want you to follow their brand." And she goes, "But why would I follow a Dum Dum?" And the point I'm making here, which I think she made so eloquently for a 7-year-old, is that people don't follow Dum Dums, they follow people. You know what I'm saying? They don't follow brands, they follow people. So part of what you're going to have to do as a brand is to humanize yourself to the influencers. Tracy and I have shared hotel rooms and we've hung out. And I mean, she's a brand ambassador for, this is my job to like hang out with her, but like, I love to hang out with her. Do you know what I'm saying? There's like, that we have a relationship. So we're going to explain a little bit how we got there in a minute. But one of the things that I wanted her to talk about right now is how you would have a brand approach you. So from our point of view, you say, okay, so how do I find them? So I was talking about how important it is to have the relationship, but how do I find them? How do people find you, and what works for you?
I think people often find me from groups that I participate in. I do some Twitter chats, Facebook groups. I'll tell you too, brand ambassadors love to promote their friends that are brand ambassadors.
It's true.
If you find someone who really works for you, ask them, who do you love on the web? I just did a promotion with, I forgot to tell you about this one, but S.E. Johnson with their Glade. They have a whole new set of fall scents that were coming out. Not that I can smell them today, but they're awesome. And they, at the end of that, they said, do you have any other bloggers that you would recommend? I recommended one of my friends who's known as the wheelchair mommy, Priscilla, and she just commented to me yesterday that they had contacted her. If you find someone who fits your groove, they are a great resource. I would also suggest looking at products and brands and organizations similar to you. While you're obviously not looking to grab someone they have, you could see what communities those people participate in. I'm a lifestyle blogger, but I participate a lot in the mommy blogger community, which I know you guys have probably heard a lot about. It's a huge label that doesn't mean that much, but there's a lot of mommy blogger groups out there. Now, mommy bloggers are sometimes running bloggers, and there's sometimes I cook from scratch bloggers, and there's some I pull my hair out with my kids bloggers. But once you kind of feel that you know what audience you're really targeting, then you can look within those communities. And I think that will help a lot in finding influencers for you. So for example, like, in engineering, I know there's online engineering groups, who's leading those conversations in the chats? Who are the people who are on the Facebook page responding? Those are great resources for that person already has a respected voice. If I can encourage them to speak on behalf of me, people will listen. Like, what was that, E.F. Hutton?
Yeah, E.F. Hutton.
Remember, so that find the voices in those groups that people are already attracted to and make relationships with them.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago that for the Wildside Ambassador Program, we had somebody move away from the area here in Austin. So I sent a Facebook, group message to all of my Austin bloggers. I said, hey guys, we need to beef up Austin. Who do you recommend? Or, somebody came to me. We were thinking about somebody for a conference to speak. Right. And I said, what do you guys think about this person? And they automatically, because I want to make sure that the people that I'm picking will also gel with the people I already have. That's really important to me too. So from a brand perspective, the reason I do that is because as I build these people together, even if like all of the influencers aren't at the same level. So I'll talk in a minute about like nurturing talent, because I see myself as a person that nurtures talent. That's something that I'm trying to do in the ambassador programs we do. But we want them to gel together, because
Yes.
what's going to happen is if you have a group of 5 people, like from Austin, and we have an event in like San Antonio in this case, you know, the likelihood of them actually attending that goes up exponentially if they know their friends are coming.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh yeah, we're going to get together. This is going to be fun. And there's a certain excitement that builds around the things that you put together. It works the same thing for experts, for SMEs, because SMEs want to talk to other SMEs. Do you know what I mean? They want to hang out with the other SMEs and like build their knowledge together. So I'm always thinking about ladder of engagement, you know, like how do I build their knowledge together? And how can I make this synergistic? I hate that word. It's very buzzy, but you know, how am I going to make this all work together with these groups? So very technically, because I'm sure you want that too, the way that I find bloggers is using tools. So, and I use my, and then I do use some tools. And the one that I use personally is InkyBee, which is right there on the second one. And that one I like because it's me that builds it. So when I find a blogger, I put their URL for their blog in there and it pulls all their numbers for me. So it tells me like how many people, you know, how engaging are they? It tells me all the things I need to know. Also, I can store, like when they blog about something, I can tag their blog posts and put them into a report for the client. So that helps a lot for my just personal productivity, really is what I use it for. We used to do all of that by hand on a spreadsheet though. So you don't have to have a fancy tool to do it. It just took, I paid like a, you know, he was talking about Fiverr, right? I paid like an outsourced company $500 one time to pull all the numbers for me. And then I can get InkyBee for a whole year for $500. So for me, it was just a no-brainer. I could do 5 campaigns for the same price as I could do 1. So that to me was really important. There's other ones up here too that lots of other people like. Group High is one that I've heard a lot about. I haven't used it personally, but it's got some lists. I'm going to warn you though, make lists a beginning place, not an ending place. And the reason that lists can't be an ending place, and I don't think I have it up here yet, but I will in a minute, is sometimes it can go completely awry. I mean, think about media relations and sending out to a list. I mean, I think most of you who are great at media relations understand that sending out to a media list is tricky. You know, you're not going to be targeted. And it's hilarious because I sat in meetings for my whole career in PR. Journalists say, please target us, please read our stuff, please. So, I mean, in that sense, influencers are the same. They want you to know that you're actually reading their stuff, that you actually know what they are. Not read their last blog post and say, hey, I really enjoyed your last blog post, and here's what I want to do. I mean, they see through this and they actually laugh at you. I'm in a lot of these groups, like she says, because that's where I find a lot of these bloggers. And I've heard these conversations, you know, the PR people and the other side. I'm in a private PR group where they're like, I can't believe the bloggers, they don't understand. You know, they just want to get paid. And we'll talk about that in a minute. They just want to get paid. And, you know, I'm in PR, I don't pay people. So we'll talk about that in a minute. You're going to maybe throw rotten eggs at me, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's 3 different levels. So how many of you have heard about Clout? Okay. How many use it or look at it ever? I'm so happy I'm in a smart group of people. But I'm saying Clout is just a number that's like sort of a popularity number. The only thing it can really show you is that people are active on a network. You know what I'm saying? It can show you that, but it doesn't tell you who they're connected with or how they're or what they're doing. The second group is really, I call these the score groups. You know, they give you a score. And in the middle, I have the say group. This is like saying what, you know, like, so these people are talking about sports and these people are talking about parenting and these people are talking about lifestyle. These people are talking about engineering. And I mean, Caterpillar is even online. I mean, you know, there's just so many different niches. So it's good to get a list to see some of the people, but then you need to, that's not where you stop. You have to go from there and start talking to these people, show up at their meetings, show up in their Facebook groups, show up at conferences where they are. For the parenting side of things, Mom 2.0, Dad 2.0, these are great conferences. There's one right here who are in Texas called Blog Elevated. There's ones in Colorado. I mean, there's like specific niche conferences for bloggers everywhere. So, I mean, make sure you find those and go to them and meet the people, because that will hugely change your results. And then the third generation are these really great kind of newer tools, and I'm going to show you one of them. Intelligence is one, and the other one is eCarn. And eCarn is more of a monitoring solution. So if you have money for a monthly monitoring solution, it's kind of an interesting one. But what they do is they show you who is passing information. So like they'll show you this is an influencer because this person, when they tweeted, all of these influencers retweeted them. Do you know what I'm saying? And it tells you in real time. Like if you hover over this, it gives you the name of the person and all their stats. And then you can kind of see, oh, well, when they tweeted this person, that person activated all of these people. And then you can say, okay, this guy might be too big for me to get because he's too busy and he's not going to pay attention to me. But this one, I could probably get their attention.
Wasn't that the spirit of clout, to be able to score based on?
You could call it a spirit, but it didn't work. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've gamed clout in some funny ways just to be silly. You know, we had one guy being an expert in sheep just by saying, sheep a lot to him on Twitter. And we said, can I be an expert in cupcakes? We tried that.
I remember the cupcakes. I got.
You got in on that.
So Julie made me an expert on cupcakes. I was like, what?
Yeah, we were like doing that. And so but I'm just saying we were just trying to prove a point that you could. And so you have to really watch that. And intelligence, I mean, you can kind of see this. I pulled into this, but this is sort of the wider view. You see how it kind of shows you the big networks across. And it's a good friend of mine who's developing this up in Portland, and it's fairly new, but I'd say go check it out if I were you. And you can buy a specific campaign. So if you're looking to really see who the influencers are on that network, it's a great way to go. And then one of the things that Tracy said that I think is really important is that you can't make a broad brush. And I was telling you I was going to tell you about this. And there's a company here, and hopefully they're not in the room, but if they are, I will talk to them directly. But there's a company here in Austin called Status Labs that got themselves in a lot of trouble last month over this very thing. So what happened was they are an SEO firm. So they're looking to build links and get bloggers to write about them. But I guess maybe CNBC was in their list for bloggers instead of for like other things. And they sent a nice little thing. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, I would be asking you to include our clients in stories you're working on, assuming there's a natural fit, or pitch your editors on news stories that include discussion of our clients. We're not looking for you to promote or shill for anything, just include discussion of our clients in a natural, organic way. What we're paying varies widely depending on quality of the secured hit. We've paid up to $1 per word for great placement. What payment structure would you be comfortable with?
Oh, no, not good.
So they sent that to CNBC. So it became a national news story, of course. And I do believe, and I didn't talk to Status Labs directly, but he came out with a statement, the guy who owns the place, and said, we often pitch bloggers on stories. I think what happened was this guy who works for CNBC, who's a freelancer, by the way, for CNBC, got in their influencer list, and they pitched CNBC with what they would pitch a blogger. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. So lists are really dangerous. If you don't have a relationship with your influencers or the people that you're trying to, get to be your influencers, this is a problem. And the problem stems from clients, bosses wanting reach. Okay, so we want a reach of 1 million or whatever it is. And you can get great reach. I mean, I get great reach from the Wildsiders all the time. 4 million impressions, whatever, which I find to be kind of funny math anyway. But that means the friends of the people and whatever. What I want to see is action. I want to see engagement. And we'll talk a little bit about the kinds of things you can measure toward the end. But these are the kinds of things you have to really be careful about. When you're building an influencer program, I realize we only have a certain amount of time, and I have limited time to do it. But we have ways of doing that. So we have a Facebook group, for example, outside. So could you talk a little bit about the Facebook group and sort of how that works for you? And how we pitch you on the Facebook group?
They do. Well, first off, the Facebook group is where we've developed our relationship. So we support each other. When somebody posts a blog post or a tweet or something, we're sharing that. We've got a symbiosis going with each other where we're supporting each other and the organization at the same time. Because as a blogger, I want people to read my posts, right? If not, I would write it in a notebook and tuck it under my bed each night. While it may have a journalistic quality quality. It is, obviously, I would like people to read it, or I would put it on the internet. The Facebook group offers me that opportunity to not only get my friends' eyes on it, but my friends and friends, etc. Also, as she said, they pitch us on it. We know when things are happening. You know, they had the event, and at first I was like, yes, pick me. And then the group said, Tracy, do you know that it's really scary? Like really scary. Like, don't take your kids, and maybe you don't even, you know, so it was a great conversational tool. So those gals that went were really ready to be scared, and it was appropriate for them, and therefore they could share it in a very positive light, rather than those of us who would have like maybe not enjoyed it so much be like, yeah, it's great, you know, because that's what you want. You want that enthusiasm. You want people to share your story in a way that makes it exciting, right? I mean, that's the point of having an influencer, is that you want them, you can't influence anyone if they're not excited, right? If I'm up here, I'm like, yeah, Cammie's awesome, and I love being part of SeaWorld. And like, you guys don't want to hear that, right? You want someone who's like, I think being a part of this group has changed my role as an influencer. I have seen my voice spread and grow dynamically since I became one of the Wildsiders, because I created relationships that expanded my sphere of influence, and hopefully my sharing of my sphere has grown someone else's. And so that's why creating that community of influencers gives you a double win, because I'm not just spreading the word about SeaWorld, I'm sharing my friends who are sharing me, which gives me a benefit. And I know going to talk about the value.
Well, you brought me to have a date, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
So, you know, you meet them and you start to talk to them, influencers, and they start to trust you, and you start to trust them. And so, how do you take it from there? So now you've got maybe a few people you've tried a few things with, you've reached out and asked them a few questions. Maybe you've met them at a conference, you have their business card. You're like, okay, now what next, right? What do I do with this? So what we're going to talk about is how you should start working with influencers. And one of the things that Tracy is going to talk about is sort of what she wants. What do bloggers want from brands, or what do influencers want from brands?
Right. The first thing I would like to say, and it kind of goes back to the get to know me statement, is many bloggers are women like me who were professionals who chose to stay at home for whatever reason, and we're looking for a creative and professional outlet. So I take my blog seriously. I have 2 master's degrees. I respect my time. Too often I get pitched things that's like, you know, since we're using the dating metaphor, well, we're the cool kids over at the cafeteria table, and if you'll carry all of our trays, we'll let you sit on the end. That it's this kind of like, aren't you excited that we bothered to notice you kind of pitch?
Yeah, it happens.
Would you like that pitch if you received it? Probably not. It's not particularly. It's not meant to be impolite, but it's not particularly inviting to work with that person. So for me to write a good post for you, that takes some time. My time has value. The value can vary as you're starting a relationship, and also depending on the size of their influence, different things have different value. If you would like me to write a 500-word review of a product, and it's a good quality product, I would probably do that for the sake of getting the opportunity to try the product. But if you want me to write a 1,000-word post and tweet it 6 times and Instagram me working out in it and on YouTube, and you know,
They have a list of demands like this.
a list of demands, you need to consider the time that is involved in that. And I'm sorry, 1 coffee pot is not worth 12 hours of my time. That is less than minimum wage, right? So you really need to look at it as a proposal that you would give any other professional. Would you ask anyone in your office to do what you're asking that person for nothing? No. You have to think about that their time has value. I think sometimes there's this kind of view that, especially back to the mommy bloggers thing, that we're a bunch of bored housewives who don't have enough to do on our plate. So we're like, I think I'll start a blog. I'm sure there may be someone like that, but that is not my experience with most bloggers. Most of us, it's something that we have put our time and heart and energy in. And if you want to be a part of that, I need to feel like you respect the time and energy and enthusiasm that I put into that, because that's my product. I'm a writer. I write on my blog. Do I also share silly pictures of my kids on Wordless Wednesday? Oh, yeah. That's the fun part. But it is something that I give energy away from my family, away from my home, on my computer typing, just as if I were sitting in an office doing it in a marketing or ad agency. Just because I'm doing it at home doesn't mean there's not a value to it. So we were talking about, do you want to go?
Yeah, and we got a bunch of, we just made sort of a word cloud of some ideas, but basically we sat down and we did a brainstorm. This is our brainstorm, and I know you can't really read it, but we're going to talk about it, which is like the kinds of things that you can do with bloggers. So for example, she was talking about the different kinds of things you might ask a blogger to do, like a Twitter party. This has become very, very popular, where you ask a bunch of bloggers to get together and look at a product and play with a product and then tweet about it in real time. So that's happened.
Right.
When you're talking about SMEs, you might want to be talking about things like advisory boards. So I've done that with nonprofits and other groups, where I'll pull together a group of influencers, and I will get them to agree to be an advisory board for a particular nonprofit, or an advisory board for a particular campaign, or those kinds of things. Inside of San Antonio SeaWorld, we have bloggers, and they're all people that work in the park. So they're not people that are communicators necessarily. So they have to come together once a month and say, okay, here's what we're going to write about this month. So we have to really convince their bosses to give us their labor hours. Okay, so that's really the bottom line on that. And how do you do that? Well, you make it clear that by doing that, they're helping themselves. You know, they're putting a spotlight on their area so that other people can see their area, and they can gain some influence, increase their influence, like what Tracy said. So we've worked with bloggers like that and with other influencers like that across all different verticals. Other things that we have are reviews and samples, which she talked about a little bit. But are you willing? Oh, this is a story. So somebody told me that there was a glue stick manufacturer, and I'm not going to say the name, who said, yeah, we want to do a craft project with mommy bloggers. And so they put out a pitch to mommy bloggers here. We want to do a craft project. And they said, great. And they told them kind of what they wanted it to be, and that they were going to send them a package of materials. And so the package came, and you can do a giveaway. So the package came in the mail, and it was 2 glue sticks and nothing else. And they said, and you can do a giveaway on your blog for 2 more glue sticks. So my question to you, I mean,
what would you do for 2 glue sticks?
just asking.
And they wanted, and it was
I wish you guys on the video could
project
see their
that they
faces.
wanted.
It's pretty bad.
They wanted like you to, have a moment with your kids, take pictures of your kids, like building, I think it was a Halloween related or something.
Yeah, craft.
And it was like, do you understand the time involved in getting my kids calmed down enough to sit at a table so we could build your project? Well, I take pictures, and then I'm going to clean it up, and you gave me 2 glue sticks.
Yeah, and you want me to give away 2 glue sticks.
Right.
So giveaways also are not what they're all cracked up to be in some ways. Could you talk a little bit about the work of a giveaway?
Yeah, for a giveaway to be successful for you, it also needs to be successful for the blogger, which means they've got to put time into it. They can't just post it and just hope people will magically notice that we're giving away your product. We have to tweet it. We have to say, you could get an extra entry if you will tweet it, so that there's some momentum going.
We have to run a campaign.
Exactly. You're campaigning for a giveaway. So we're going to talk about some of the brands that I work with coming up, but I have a great relationship with Dr. Smith's Diaper Rash Ointment. And when I do a giveaway for them on my blog, it's a substantial giveaway. It's a $500 Visa card as first prize, $200 second and third prize. people want that, right? It's an Amazon credit or it's a Visa card. That's something that it's like,
it's not a box of diaper rash cream.
right.
Just saying.
You know,
what I mean?
they by the way do throw in the 6 months, but you know, they know that they need to do a little bit more. That giveaway gets me tons of traffic. That's a mutual benefit to me. People want to come to my site because they want a $500 Visa card. Heck, I want a $500 Visa card. But we share in that benefit. I'm hoping that if you come to look at the $500 gift card, you go, oh, wow, that's a really cool site. I wonder what she thinks about this. That's my hope, obviously. But over the years, I've developed a relationship with them. They know how much time I put into a giveaway. They also compensate me for that as a professional that promotes them, knowing that I'm going to tweet 4 times a day on that. They understand that, and I'm not just compensated by traffic. I am compensated as a professional. When I was 3-4 years ago as a blogger, just the traffic was beneficial to me. So you have to target your expectations with whom you're working and how much benefit you're offering. And yes, at the beginning of just having a $500 gift card on my blog would have been like, yes, I will so definitely do that, because I had very little traffic, and that was great mutual benefit. So you have to target what you're asking of them with not just the quantity of time, but the quality of time. You know, is this someone who just presets a bunch of tweets in Hootsuite the night before and is never going to check back if anybody interacted? Or is this somebody who gets on Twitter live and says, this is still open. What would you do with $500? Something that generates a conversation that gets them actually thinking about what you're trying to promote, not simply that the name in it.
So, and along that line, I mean, there's so many other things that we have on this. So Pinterest board parties, where you get people to pin some products and things. There's things that you can do with affiliate sales. And this group is not so much an affiliate sales group, but like if you have a product like a software or something like that, you can have like a little affiliate sales thing where if they sell something off your site, they get a little bit of a cut. And I realize with money and PR, everybody gets really nervous. And I'm in PR for 20 years now, so I get really nervous too. So one of the things that you have to also be really careful about is FTC disclosures, making sure that those bloggers are disclosing that they're working with you. And then being really careful about the types of things you're asking them to put on the blog, because we were talking about this too. If you see a blog, like you're in the community and you see a blog that just has sponsored post after sponsored post after sponsored post, what do you do?
I click away. I used to have a mommy blogger that I followed and read her every day, and more were just advertisements after advertisement. And, you know, and for a while I would still go search because I wanted to hear about her kids and everything. And eventually it just became a promotion site that I only really went over there if they had a great giveaway. You know, I think you have to balance your voice and what started the passion for the blog with sharing material and making it a professional venue. And I know for me, I keep my sponsored posts to less than 50%. And I really aim for about 20 to 30% that I'm producing my own content. So sorry, guys. Producing my own content, because I think of it as a magazine. And this is my magazine. And unless it's Vogue, where let's be honest, the advertisements are why you buy Vogue, most of the time you're like, skip, skip, skip. Okay, there's the article. I don't want my blog to feel like skip, 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 skip. I want you to feel like there's something to read there. And oh, by the way, she's talking about Dr. Smith's or Claritin or whatever. And she writes about it in an interesting way, hopefully. But that's not what you came there for.
And the other thing that I would say about that is, from the brand perspective, whenever you're structuring these kinds of things, for if you're having a lot of influencers talk about one thing, right? So a campaign. When you're structuring that, structure it as an experience so that they can write about it as an experience rather than as a brand.
Yes.
And I know that's really easy to say for SeaWorld because they have all these experiences. And so you'll say, well, I don't have any experiences, but you actually do. I mean, I was thinking about the shave guy, you know, the video he was showing earlier today. I mean, that was an experience watching that, wasn't it? I mean,
Mhm.
whether you like the language or not, that's another story. But I'm just saying, look at that and look at how you can be creative in the way that you have them present your product.
To piggyback on that, I got an opportunity to try this thing called kids decals, which is labels that are supposed to survive the dishwasher, the laundry, everything. And so I wrote a post about how often my daughter loses things. And I was able to throw in the fact that I tried these kid decals. And by the way, they're still on a really good product. But that I wrote about that rather than, isn't it great that I got to try these?
Yeah. And it's like product placement or native advertising. You've heard those two things, right? So I mean, even in communication, we should think of these as product placement or native communication, because even in our stuff that we send out for our own company, when we write about stuff, we tend to like get up and all caught up in the jargon and putting the jargon in the press release, and it sounds very stilted. Whereas if we think about sharing stories and like adding the thing in there that makes that story possible.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So
yes,
I think that's a really good way to think about influencer relations. And it's also a great way to get influencers that are in your own company to come forward and write for you, is if they're allowed to just share their experience rather than told, hey, can you write about this? Can you write about this? And then they tend to go all left brained, like, okay, and they make a list of what that is, rather than sharing like, here's a problem that we had and here's how we solved it. Those kinds of posts.
it's really easy to get lost in the numbers. I want this to hit.
Yeah.
Think about, what do you want? What would you want to read? What would you want to interact with? Likely that's your best guide right there, is what would make me zone out, or what would make me click continue reading. And and so use your gut, use what appeals to you as your guide, and because you are the expert in whatever your field is, your brand, your brand better than anyone else. So what would make you be excited in a way to share your brand? Or what would be like, that's not a fit? Because if it's not a fit, it's not worth your time any more than it's not worth their time.
And speaking of that, at some point, you got to take it to the next level with your ambassadors. So maybe you've done a few things with them. They've written for you a few times, or you've kind of tested the waters. One of the things we can talk about in a minute is how much, if you're going to pay them. Before I go into this, I know a lot of people are worried about paying a blogger for a post, okay, pay for post, and like, how horrible is that? One of the things that really helped me with this is, first of all, the disclosures, making sure the disclosures are there. And number two, the other thing that helped me with this is the understanding of what Tracy just said, is I'm not paying you for a post, I'm paying you for your time, which is different. Okay, so I'm paying for you for your time that you're gonna take out an entire day to come over and do something for me, which, by the way, I'm not paying her to be here, just so you know. She's here. Thank you.
I love her.
On her own. I bought her coffee this morning. But the point is that you need to have a good enough relationship with them to understand what that is. And for SeaWorld, for example, we don't pay them per se, but we give them quite a bit.
Yes.
So we give them quite a bit of like experiences, things they wouldn't get otherwise, admission to the park for the whole year.
My son rode his first roller coaster at SeaWorld. I mean, how can you beat that experience? Like, I heard him giggling, and then he got off and said, "I am now a man." I mean, that's something that's priceless to me. That has real value.
And she wrote about that. See, so she writes about her son saying, those things, and to the brand, that's huge. I mean, you can't really pay anybody to do that. It's her experience. So how do you take it to the next level? We're going to have you talk through a couple of your brands. I'm going to go ahead and move forward to this slide.
Take a sip of water.
Yeah, while you're doing that.
Excuse me.
So we put just basically a whole slide full of brands that Tracy is working with right now up here to talk a little bit about kind of how she's working with each of these brands. So let's not start there because I want to wait till the end for that one. So you've talked a little bit about Wildside. What convinced you to join that? How did that come to you?
How did that come to me? Well, first off, my husband is in the military, and SeaWorld has a program. It's now called Waves of Honor, but it used to be called Here's to the Heroes, where they allow families of military to go once a year to attend the park, which I think is a glorious thing. And I wrote about that. And we have a mutual friend who saw that I wrote about that. She's like, I don't know if you know this, but they actually have a group of bloggers. And I was like, really? And so that was something I already had a passion for. I write a series on my blog called Shining the Starlight, which is about focusing on organizations that support military family, either with discounts or free days or other such things. So I already had an affinity for that organization. So when the opportunity to work with them came up, I was all in. And so that was just a nice coalition of what's the word I'm looking for? Like of wants and
it was a confluence of what she was interested in. So from the brand perspective, since I'm the one who scoped her out and asked her over, we were talking about who would make a good fit for the brand, because we always do. Every year we look at it, we're like, who's going to make a good fit? And they have to apply for this. So we actually reach out to them and ask them to apply. And we have a certain criteria. So our mutual friend Julie said, hey, you should look at Tracy. And I said, as I went to her blog and we read it and we looked at it, and I said, oh yes, this is a pretty good fit. We look for good writers. I mean, we have a very specific thing in mind when we're going to look for somebody. And then we reached out to her and said, hey, would you be willing to, put your name in the hat? And she did. And then we picked her, thankfully, obviously. And then that, I think, in some ways led to probably one of your best brand relationships, which is this, right? So this and this.
Dr. Smith's is my longest relationship.
Right.
In fact, if you see my business
That's
cards,
how we knew about you, is through the Dr. Smith's
yes.
issue. That's how we found
Dr. Smith's is an excellent example of how you could use influencers to grow a tiny company into a nationwide organization. I started working with Dr. Smith's in 2010 when they were a tiny local San Antonio-based company. There really was a Dr. Smith. He was a San Antonio pediatrician, and this is the product he made up. And having lived in Texas, I had used it and loved it. They found me and asked if I would be interested in writing for their blog. They were setting up drsmiths.com. Mission Pharmacologist acquired the little bitty Dr. Smith's company and wanted to slowly build them to Texas-wide, regional, and then they just went national last year.
How did they find you?
That I don't know.
Really?
Our mutual friend Julie does some voodoo. I don't know. She's pretty amazing.
It's not voodoo. I mean, it's not really voodoo. It's going back to how we found them, because Julie is really the thread through this. So Julie is one of my employees, but she's really good at going out and going into communities, just like I said, and we'll look at communities and we'll say, hey, this person's talking to this person. And then we'll say, who is that person? And we follow the rabbit hole. Do you know what I'm saying? We follow the thread. We go down the rabbit hole and follow the thread. And Tracy was not, I'm going to just talk like you're not here, but at the time, she was not a huge blogger. I mean, she had like a really great voice. We could tell she was going to be good. We could tell she was a go-getter. We saw her coming up and coming. So we like to get not the biggest one. We actually look for what we call the magic middle. It was something Dave Sifry at Technorati called the magic middle back in the olden days, 2008. And that's really those bloggers that are kind of like, they have good momentum. They obviously have a community around them, but they're not huge yet. They're kind of growing, and some of them will fizzle out, but many of them will continue to grow. So you've got to find those at that point. And so I like to nurture talent. And so I'll find them at that point when a $500 gift card will make them excited and over the moon, and then recruit them at that point. And they start to grow, which Tracy has, and they start to grow bigger and bigger. And now, like Dr. Smith's pays her go to like trade shows and meet with people, right, for example. Or, they actually have a relationship with her that's financial at this point.
Because I am, my husband says I drink the Kool-Aid, okay, on the Dr. Smith's. I'm very enthusiastic about this product because it made a huge difference in my home, my life, my daughter not crying. As a mom, that's huge. So I don't just write or host giveaways. I actually go to conferences and meet moms and share about the product and why it's important to me. And one of the things that is really special about my relationship with them, as I've worked with them, they've wanted me to grow too. It's back to that thing about the SeaWorld has allowed me to grow friends. They made me business cards. They took me to not just mommy conferences, but blogger conferences, wanted my voice to grow. And so we grew together. And so now, 4 years on, my children aren't on behalf of them, because it's not about getting their free product. It's about, I think they are a high quality company that I'm proud to be associated with. And I feel like they're proud to be associated with me. And that's a huge thing. I don't just want it to be one-sided. I want you to feel awesome that you're a star in my universe. I want you to feel like it's awesome that I'm on that page. And I want her ambassador, not just she wants to be my ambassador. And finding that person to grow with and create that long-term relationship is why I could continue to talk about Dr. Smith's with a 7 and 11-year-old at home.
Yeah. And we're going to run out of time if we go through them all. But so I would like you to talk just really quickly about like how Jamba Juice in a very friendly way, of course, but just kind of an understanding of like sometimes these programs become a problem because you'll start them, especially if you're an agency and you're hired to come in and start a program, and then the money goes away for the agency, and then it's an internal team, and maybe they don't support it like they would have if they had continued to have the kind of help they had. So can you explain?
Going back to the dating metaphor, you know how sometimes things start really hot and heavy, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, you got cold all of a sudden.
Brands can do that.
I participated in what they called their World Ambassadors, which was it was not a paid ambassadorship, but at the beginning it was a whole lot of product and opportunities to host events. And I mean, the first package I got was 2 boxes this big, and I mean, I had everything, and I could write about their product because they sent me product. I was drinking Jamba Juices everywhere, you know. And then, but it was a quarterly program. And evidently there had been some disconnect between what the agency wanted to do and what the brand wanted to do. And indeed, things started to fizzle. And, you know, they wanted the same expectations of the bloggers, but I then got, the second box was like this big. And then the third box was 2 cans of their drink. And my expectations of me were never changed, but their investment in me went down. So it's kind of, you know, I still love Jamba Juice, but it wasn't, when it ended, I wasn't really upset when that program ended, because I was putting a lot of time and energy into something that wasn't doing much for me. And I lived up to my commitment with them. But so think about, what is your long-term vision? Are you going to be able to sustain this? Don't be the guy that's like, I think I could marry you on the first night. and then, you know, 2 weeks later, he's like, why are you so close? You know, think about where you want to go with it. And are you going to be able to sustain that momentum with them?
Yeah.
And how did you manage those commitments? Did you have to go back and talk to them and say, look, I can't, this is not working? Or did you just use?
Tracy's way too nice, and which is not good. She needed to do that. But he's asking, did she go back and tell him that we need to adjust the expectations? What did you do?
I did in the after survey. I said that I felt like that the enthusiasm for the project had fallen out, and that they had an unequal expectation with what they wanted to continue with. And but did I do that? No, probably should have.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too with the brand, because you can really get in a situation where you're putting a lot of expectations on the blogger or the influencer. So a lot of brands will say, because they're trying to meet numbers, they're saying use this hashtag a certain number of times, or do this or do that. I've never been prescriptive in my projects. So for example, SeaWorld, we don't even require that they write per se. I mean, we would like them to, and believe me, it figures into whether we'll choose them again the next year. So if you have somebody who just rides all year and doesn't do anything, then we'll probably not choose them the next year. You know, we have I think our only requirement is that they attend 2 events during the year, and we give them like maybe 8 events to go to. And we have a major conference in the middle of the summer. So that came about. And that goes beyond the Wild Side group. So that goes back to my nurturing the talent. one of the things I wanted to do is grow the group, but we can only do 5 bloggers in 5 markets, or 4 markets and then 5 at large. So we have 25. We have a cap. But for AdventureCon, which is in the summer, we actually have a conference for these lifestyle bloggers, and we allow anybody to come, and they have to pay. The ones that come that aren't Wildsiders have to pay. The ones that are Wildsiders do not. They can come with their families, and we do this really amazing conference.
It's a huge benefit. It's huge.
And that has actually been huge for the whole program, because what it does is those people that maybe are their up and comers, they come and they pay to come, and then I get to know who they are, and then guess what? I can then recruit them. I feel like they're really a good blogger. Kristen Barclay is a really good example of that. So that's another blogger.
Conferences we mentioned it kind of in passing at the beginning. Conferences are a really great way to meet people who are serious about being an influencer. There's a million plus blogs that you could go through. If you want to know who are people who want to have relationships, who want to be professional in the way they present their blog, conferences are people who either are looking to learn how to do it. And, again, what she's talking about, finding somebody who doesn't have 20,000 views a day, but oh, by the way, like we said, also posted 20 sponsored posts that day, but finding the person that maybe gets 50, 100 views a day, but people are commenting. They're paying attention to what they're reading. They're tweeting and said, I just read this article, you should read it. And finding those people, conferences are just a really terrific source for that.
And I always say quality over quantity for me. So that brings us to the measurement part, which is really important, because obviously you're going to have to measure results. Again, I use a tool. I use InQB. It's a good way for me to see it. It actually shows my reach. It shows all those things for me automatically. I think that tool is like $500 a year. It's really affordable. But it's really important that you look at like how many times did they mention you. All those things are important. But I think engagement is the thing you really need to look at, because so many bloggers are out there just throwing stuff out, getting $200 a post to do something, or 100. I mean, what does it range from 50 to about 200, right?
Yeah.
So it's going like, some people will get paid $50 for a post, and they're going to put $50 worth into it. It looks like a $50 post often, and I'm not saying you have to pay them like $500 per post, because I don't think you should do that. I don't pay them anything. Like I said, in fact, I tell them, you have no requirement to blog, but I hope you're going to share your experience. And when they share their experiences, it's so much more powerful. It's so much more powerful. Those posts get like huge numbers of comments, people talking about them, tweeting them, and you get that kind of interaction. And then if you do have an affiliate program, and we've talked about this a little bit for SeaWorld, we do, by the way, so we're going to work on that. But if you do have an affiliate program, they can put a link, and if somebody clicks through it and buys, then I can measure that too. I can also measure how much traffic comes from all these blogs to our blog through our back end. So those kinds of things are how you'll measure. If you want more detail on measurement, that's actually my other thing that I do. I'm like a measurement person, and I have helped like major national agencies put together measurement programs in social media. So I'm happy to talk about that. But I think for what we're talking about today, what's most important is the engagement. You really want to have meaningful communication versus spam communication. I don't know what else to say. I mean, 1 million views of something that nobody actually read, a reach of 1 million is not going to be anything. So if somebody has 1 million followers and they spam out your sponsored tweet, people just ignore it and go on to the next tweet. I mean, what impact did it have? Did it have any impact? And that's what you want to look for. That impact, the retweet rate, the @reply rate on Twitter, those kinds of things are really, really important. And you had something to say. So opening up for questions.
Yeah, on that note, do you have any, when you said share experience, is there any negative experience that comes?
What kind of negative? I mean, we have lots of negative
I'm
experiences.
just saying.
Like if one of the bloggers has written about something
let's
that,
say something they don't like you
Oh, yeah.
put on a hair product and
Yeah.
your hair product.
No, we have. I mean, we've had it too, even with SeaWorld. I mean, when people came and there was like a bad, something would happen. The thing is that if you have good relationships with your influencers, they don't Do you know what I'm saying? They talk to you rather than talking to their audience.
Priscilla's experience with
Priscilla,
accessibility
yeah.
is a perfect.
So Priscilla she's actually wheelchair mommy. She's here in Austin, and she's like, do not get in her way. She can do anything.
She's a
And I'm
dynamo.
not joking. Don't try to help her. She's got it under control. Thank you very much. She opens doors for me. I mean, seriously. So you have to understand who you're dealing with. And when she had an issue, and she did, she came to me. You know what I'm saying? She came to me. She talked to me about it, and we handled it. You know what I'm saying? We dealt with that situation immediately. So I need my ambassadors to tell me when something's not going right, because they're the ones who help me to help the general public. Like, so they catch things. They can tell me what's going on. You also have to be careful that you do have that commitment. Lots of stories about brands that haven't done it right. So, I mean, there's tons of those. But one where a girl that I know, she was at the center of an influencer group in a city, and a brand came to her, an agency actually came to her and said, hey, can you help us find people to go on this cruise? Because we want to take them on this cruise and do this thing. And we'll bring you and your family. She goes, of course. And so she started doing that. She spent hours putting together names and numbers for them of people fits for their cruise experience. And then she went down to the dock on the day of the cruise, and she shows up there, and she has a nursing baby. And they said, oh no, the baby can't come. There's a rule, we can't bring babies on the boat. And she's like, but I have a baby. I have a baby, I can't leave the baby. So she literally sat there and watched the boat leave. So the cruise ship is sailing off, and she is the one who made that happen for that brand. She didn't ask for pay. She didn't ask, I mean, this is what I'm saying. We can't abuse the influencers. Do you know what I'm saying? We can't abuse them. Realize that they're helping. You're not helping them. They're helping you. That's really important. That also happened with a big RV program. So there was a company that bloggers on an RVing trip, and they got them an RV, and they had all these things planned. And there was a breakdown in communication. I'm not sure what, but somewhere right in the middle of the whole RV thing. And by the way, they showed up, they had to pay for their own gas in the RV. So I don't know if you know how expensive it is to fill an RV with gas, but pretty expensive. And so, they started on keeping track of how much money they spent every day on the trip. And that is a problem, right? So you've got to think about what you're doing. I mean, when you're putting these things together, realize that. And by the way, they were so mad, the brand, about them doing this on their blog, that somewhere in the middle, they said, yeah, the trip is over. Stranded. And said, yeah, just bring it back they had to go back to Las Vegas on their own. They had to find their own place to park and sleep that night. So I'm just telling you, you would do that, and I know you wouldn't, because you guys are amazing, and that's why you're here. But I'm just saying, when you are putting together a program, mistakes can be made. And especially if you're working with lifestyle and parenting bloggers, you have to think about nursing babies. That actually becomes an issue, because there are liability situations. So you have to say up front what the expectations are going to be and not change them midway. At that point, it's a customer service issue. The customers make it work, and if it is an insurance liability, your lawyers are going to put you out, then you need to compensate that person for what they did. I mean, you're like, I will compensate you. I will do whatever it takes to make this right. That becomes a customer service issue, right? So any other questions?
Can you explain the affiliate program just very briefly, how it's going to work?
Yeah. So how it works, and by the way, you can actually set up affiliate programs through, there's actually a really great new website kind of platform called New Rainmaker. It's brand new. It's Copyblogger has put it together. And in there, you can actually set up a percentage. So say you're selling white papers, making it up, or ebooks. And you say, hey, if you get all the traffic that comes from you and uses that code, this influencer code, they get 10% off, and you get 10% of the cost of the product. So you can set that up. I mean, and so, yeah.
There's a Texas Monthly about it, just this month or last month. And so it's really gaining steam.
Well, affiliate bloggers make money of anyone. I mean, really. But, have you ever gone to a site and says, if you click this, it's an affiliate link? Have you ever seen that when you're out? That's what it means. Or better yet, the nonprofits that say, if you shop through our link for Amazon.com, we get a little bit of a cut. That's an affiliate link. go through that affiliate link, the web server on that other side knows that you came from that link, and it credits that sale to
Amazon's
the
a huge
influencer.
one. A lot of bloggers, even if they're writing about a product like, oh, I tried out this game and my kids love Monopoly, and you might see that Monopoly is a hot link.
And you have to say beside it, it's an affiliate link. That's an FTC rule. Yeah.
Or you could say at the top, it could
Yeah,
say
you say-
this post may include affiliate links. But if you go, oh, Monopoly, and you click that, and all of a sudden you're at Monopoly on Amazon. If you purchase that Monopoly,
or anything else while you're on Amazon.
or yeah, actually anything on that trip to Amazon, that person will get credit.
So
Thank you.
that's affiliate marketing and links. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you listening.
Yeah.
I forgot my speaker gifts.
Oh.
2 speaker gifts. And if you guys, while I'm giving these, would you take a moment and go on the